Dots. I'm Dr. Latifat. I'm the host of the Money Fit MD podcast. This is where we help badass women physicians just like you learn simple and effective tools to build wealth from the inside out. That way, we can create wealth and bigger impact without all the burnout. Enjoy the episode.
All right, everybody. Welcome. Listen, y'all, if you're listening on the podcast and you're not like watching a video on YouTube, you're 100% missing my dancing, right? And why is that a problem? Why is that a thing? Because I just made up that it's a thing. So whatever. And if you're new to my world, you're like, what the hell is going on? What did I just scroll through? Welcome to the hood. This is Dr. Latifat. This is where we talk about all things money, mindset, freedom, and creating wealth for physicians. I am your host, and I usually run solo episodes where I talk and yell at y'all because I love you and I truly want you to have money, even if that means to be pissed at me for like 5 seconds and then you come back later and we'll be friends. But I also do that by inviting women physicians or humans in general that either have amazing stories, that have something that you can learn from, or tips that I think will help you on that journey to freedom. So I have a guest here today that I'm super duper excited about. It's our first time really chatting, and I love what she's doing. I think it's important work, but I also believe that there's so many women physicians that could learn from hearing how other women physicians are taking the amazingness that we have clinically and taking it outside of the exam room so that it can even help even more people. So welcome, Dr. Toya.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. And let me give you a little dance.
Yeah. And by the way, tell people where you are so it becomes even more relevant.
Yes, Trinidad and Tobago for Carnival. Yes.
Yep. Listen, I need to figure out a year where I can, also go, because I think it'll be fun to experience. I mean, we just came back from like traveling to, 19 countries. And I think I just need to like plan a 3-month Caribbean thing and just make the time overlap so I can go like have some fun too and experience the culture, because it's not all about party, it's about like the culture, experience the culture during this time of year. But tell us, who are you, what do you do, and tell us about you for those that don't know you.
Yes, thank you so much. I am Latoya Lusa Sampson, or Dr. Toya. I am originally from the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes. I went to Howard University for undergrad and medical school. I did a 6-year combined BS-MD program, and then trained with obstetrics and gynecology in Philadelphia. And then I've been living and practicing in Northern California since I graduated. And I am a serial entrepreneur. This is my second business. And I am now a coach for physician moms who are postpartum and beyond, helping them go from anxiety and resentment to confidence and joy. And this was inspired all by my own very difficult postpartum journey and my many years of helping and caring for postpartum women as a gynecologist. So that is me in a nutshell.
I love it. So you moved from Trinidad to Howard. How old were you when you moved?
18.
Okay. At that time, did you have any thoughts of being an entrepreneur, or you're just like, I want to be an MD? Because you did the combined program. So, I mean, those that are MDs, DOs, we're serious, but those that do the combined program are like hecka serious. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, who were you then? And how does that, like, the person you are right now, was like that, will they be shocked at each other? Like, who are you?
So yes and no. So then it wasn't that big a deal for me to do the combined program, because in Trinidad, we have the British system. So when you go into university, you go straight into med school. It's a 5-year program. You do your internship. I'm sure you're familiar with that setup. And so when I heard that in the US, you have to do undergrad and then med school, and I was like, this is long. So when I found out that Howard had this program, it was like a no-brainer for me to go in there. So it just seemed normal to me. I don't know that I would recommend it necessarily to anybody else, but it was the right thing for me at the time. And, you know, in terms of the entrepreneurship, I had kind of always been entrepreneurial because in my secondary school in Trinidad, we had different programs like junior achievements where we had to sell things. And, you know, it was always in me because I really enjoyed that. I was a good salesperson. So in there, it was all in there, but I was so focused on the medicine that it wasn't really in my mind. So that part is kind of surprising. But when I really look, it was in there all along.
Got it. Got it. That's good to know. And so you mentioned that how long have you been in practice?
8 years.
8 years
No, that's
now.
not right. Longer than that. So I graduated medical school in 2011 and residency in 2015. So however
Got
long
it.
that
So
is.
it's been however that long that is, 9 years
Yeah.
or something, right?
Yeah.
And so as an OB practicing, what made you consider doing something outside of clinical practice? And I will tell you the reason why. Well, I think a lot of times as physicians, we've spent time doing this excellent training that we've had. And many of us train in academic centers, and a lot of our mentors are academics. So we have an idea of what the future could look like. But then now you've taken your skill set and your experience, and now you're taking that outside of the examination room. Tell us what made you think about that. What give us the real deal. Tell us the truth.
Yeah. So it was COVID and my hair that first started, if you could imagine it, my entrepreneurial journey. So I had always, you know, had issues finding products for my hair, as many Black women do. And it always bothered me that products that were geared towards Black women were not made by Black people. So when I was looking for these things, I was like, you're saying this is for me, but do you really know what I need? So it was always this thing in my head, like, how can I make this more efficient? This searching for these products. And this was before Instagram was what it is now. And before Google, it was as robust as it is. So during the pandemic, you know, when everybody was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take life is short, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a business. I'm going to make this directory so that I can collect all of these products and businesses that are made specifically for us so that you don't have to go Googling and searching here and there to find it. So I started that while I was still fully employed. And that job was a toxic situation. And I was doing what most women physicians, all physicians do. I was just surviving, right? I needed to work. I was well paid. I was just grinding. Through the business coaching that I received and the lessons learned just from being an entrepreneur and knowing the value in myself and in my MD, I realized that I don't actually need to take this. Like, I don't have to work in this kind of environment. I can always make money. I can always be compensated for the enormous skills and knowledge that I have. So I didn't need to continue being burnt out when I had already been burnt out from residency. So I decided that I'm just going to leave with no plan, which I never thought I would do. I did not have a job lined up or anything like that. I took like 2 months off and had a vacation, got pregnant. And then
that would happen.
Yeah. And I started doing independent contracting, and that was really, that's really like my second business, was my corporation that I do my independent contracting under. And yeah, I've been doing part-time locums ever since, and it's given me the freedom to then continue my entrepreneurial journey, and also given me time to affect change for my patients in a different and more impactful way, because I now have the time to do the education that I do now on TikTok and on social media. So I do OBGYN education. I would not have had time to do that if I was still fully employed, right? I do advocacy work. I would not have had time to give of myself in that way. And I love my job. I'm very good at it, but I only touch a very small portion of the population. When I put videos out there, right now I have 16,000 followers on TikTok, 16,000 on Facebook. how many ever on YouTube, like I'm reaching a much wider audience with one video, with one piece of education than I could do in a hospital. So it is me doing what I love in a different way while being able to preserve myself, which at the end of the day is my priority because I have to be okay for everything else to work in my life.
I love that. I love that so much. And, you know, as you're talking, one of the things that comes to mind is the idea of like scarcity versus abundance,
Mhm.
right? And when I think about it, many times we have scarcity or we have scarcity thoughts about how we can use the skills that we have instead of bringing abundance into how can I help even more people if that's what I want. How can I do it in a different way, in a different setting, which sounds like exactly what you've done, which is taking one thing and blowing it into other things, which I love. But I also wanted to emphasize what you described, which is the importance of paying attention. Paying attention to what pisses you off can be one of the most profitable things that you do with your life. It pissed you off. And again, like people think that emotions are bad. Sometimes they're gifts. It pisses you off that it pissed you off that you could not find products that were made for Black women. And I get that a lot because when I was in college, I would work with my aunt, part like, you know, just helping out. She had a beauty supply store in LA. And you would be amazed how much disparities there is even in that world. Because a lot of the products that she was selling at that time were not made by Black people.
Right.
They were made by a lot of Asian companies. And there were times when she would order products that were popular and they would refuse to deliver to her because she was Black.
Yes.
There's literally been times when they came to the shop to deliver for a product she's paid for. And when they saw that it was a Black shop and they saw that the owner was Black, they refused to deliver the product.
Wow.
So pay attention to what pisses you off because it's not only going to pay you, it's going to pay other people. So I love that because, again, when I think about what you described, when you talk about, you know, buy direct, that's it pissed you off enough, but you did not ignore it. Because what we do is we ignore it and we just continue being pissed off or we avoid it. But what if that pissed off is like the key that's to your next level? And the same thing with what you've been doing clinically as well. Like you were burnt out and it could cower, you could just ride with it, but you're like, get pissed off that you're burnt out and you're not changing anything.
Yes, I totally agree. And that is what happened to me postpartum and led me to my third business, which is my coaching business, because I was pissed off about how bad I felt in my postpartum journey. You know, I had a painful pregnancy. My daughter was huge. She was huge inside and outside, and it caused a lot of pain. And I assumed that I could kind of bounce back. I thought it would all get better after I had her. And I kind of returned to doing what I was doing very quickly because now I was doing my own thing, my entrepreneurship, which I loved. So I just hopped back into it before I was ready. But behind the scenes, I was pissed off and resentful that the people around me, my support system who loved me, just was not taking care of me the way that I felt like I should be taken care of. But they were following my own lead because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was doing all these things that I shouldn't have been doing instead of recovering and resting. So I was there in my anger, like, why aren't y'all treating me like the queen that I am, you know, and just pushing and pushing until I burnt out yet again. I didn't know postpartum burnout was a thing until it happened to me. And, you know, I really had to just sit with my husband, get the help and the therapy, both physical and psychological and everything, to start to like heal and realize that just being pissed off and not telling anybody and not doing anything about it makes no sense. Like you need action. So that's how I decided to help other physician moms in this space, because it is such a difficult time. Like we have so much loneliness, so much isolation that people think I'm the only one going through this. And we just hold on to all these things that are pissing us off, and everybody else is going about their lives, and you're just there. Everybody's focusing on the baby, right? So I just wanted to give people the tools that they needed to navigate this period better and just not have to go through what I went through.
So powerful. Let me ask you, did you have help, quote unquote? And the reason why I ask that is many times people think having help, blanket, is enough. There is a human with a pulse here. So, and we ask that question, people are like, oh, do you have help? They're like,
Yeah.
yes, I have a pulse. So did you have help?
Yes.
What do you wish you had done differently to optimize the help that you had to work for you?
Oh, this is a great question. So yes, I had help, and I had my mom there, and my husband took time off. And my issue was, these people were not the people that just had baby and were postpartum and going through what I was going through. So there's this thing that people do sometimes where they think that people around them are mind readers. And because it's obvious to us, it's like, well, it should be obvious to you. I mean, I see it. So I see how tired I am, and, all this breastfeeding and stuff. So why don't you see it? And, of course, there are people who are not truly helpful, people who are selfish and all that, but that wasn't really the case for me. So yes, I had help, but it was not what I needed, because I did not make it what I needed. And if I had to do it differently, I would definitely express myself more and just be very clear with what I needed and my boundaries. And then I also would have paid for exactly the type of help that I needed, because oftentimes paid help is better than free help. So, the ability to be able to tell somebody, this is what I want, to lay it out, and to have kind of that accountability, not that, you have to have this control or bossy thing or anything like that. It's just that when somebody's coming to a job, they really have to follow the rules, right? And during postpartum, especially when it's your first time, you want things done a certain way. So it can be more helpful. So I think I would have gotten a postpartum doula at the very least. If I was like my first pregnancy during COVID, when there was nobody, I would have gotten a night nanny then as well. But I believe that at that time, I would have thought it was too expensive, which is what a lot of physician moms think when they hear all these things. They think it's like a luxury thing for super wealthy, whatever. But if you have these people helping you, then you can recover faster. You can go back to work feeling refreshed. You don't have to burn out like I did. You can have time to learn to invest. You can have time to start a business and do all those other things, and not just be completely depleted at the end of the day. So that's what I would have done differently. And I hope that somebody else learns from my story. Don't end up like me.
And I'm glad I asked that question, because again, we blanket help.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you have help. Yeah, I have a 14-year-old teenager. Well, I guess it's better than nothing. Sometimes it's like, is it really better than nothing? Is it really? Right? And especially, I love our families in general, but sometimes people think they know what's best for you. And I will tell you that this is something that is a really, really important factor, because it applies, and that's why I love principles. Principles work in one setting, and then you take them outside to a different setting and it also works. But like clinically, when we think about what we do as physicians, we are burnt out, we need help, we get pissed off, we don't say anything, we complain about it, we wish it was different, and then we go home and we do it all over every single day.
Yep.
Again. And when I think about burnout, even in a non-pregnant person, when I think about the impact that not using those tools, those skill set at those different time points, and the impact it would have created for good, if we can learn how to do the exact opposite, and use our words as communication to ask for what we want, so that we can serve the same goals that we all have, which is at the end of the day, we all have the same goal.
Yeah.
We just are thinking about it differently. And many times we are not speaking and asking for what we want and what we need to be able to accomplish the common goal. Does that sound like
Beautiful? Beautifully said.
fabulous? Let me understand. I want to understand. So let's imagine that I was a pregnant woman. And I do think this is really important. And I love that you said this is not a luxury thing. This is a wellness thing, is what I would even go as far as to call it. How would you help me in my postpartum period? Like, tell me the things, like, someone is listening right now that is pregnant and like, yo, I'm thinking and hearing all the stories. How can Dr. Toya help me? Tell me about that.
So for pregnancy is the perfect time to start thinking about everything that I talk about, because when you're pregnant and even before, all the planning surrounds the baby. Nobody ever plans for themselves postpartum. Now, it's coming into, popularity, especially with the fourth trimester, which is the first 12 weeks after delivery. And, people are thinking about that more. But in general, nobody is thinking about, how am I going to be? What am I going to do? How am I going to heal? So I help people start thinking about those things. What is your plan? You have a birth plan. What's your postpartum plan? Who's going to come and help you? Actual good help, right? Figuring out what that help looks like, figuring out who's going to take time off when, because a lot of times I hear from physician moms, I'm going to take my leave, and I'm going to be home, so my husband or partner is going to work, and then he's going to take his leave when I go back, and then maybe we'll hire somebody. And I'm just like, sis, no. The more hands, the better. So, going over those things during the pregnancy is just a lot of things that people don't think about. And especially if it's your first baby, you think, oh, well, you don't expect some of these things. And if it's not your first baby, it can be worse because you have something to compare it to. You're like, oh, well, I did this before, it's going to be fine. When sometimes the comparison makes things worse, right? So just that kind of planning during the pregnancy, I think is great. And I'm very passionate about that. And then when you are postpartum, really that 12-week time, it is a very unique time medically and emotionally. So I focus on the later postpartum because I really feel that people need to have high touch with their actual like OBGYN in medical settings and stuff like that. And there are a lot of like breastfeeding issues and actual healing issues that happen in that time. So while I can direct people about, what they should be doing and things like that, that time I feel like is pretty sacred. And when people are transitioning out of the fourth trimester, that's like my sweet spot, because that transition back to work can be a complete upheaval in the life of a postpartum person, especially a postpartum physician. So that's where the planning, and as you mentioned, the skills that I learned from all of my roles that I have right now, being a physician, being an OBGYN, being a mom, being a best-selling author, being an entrepreneur, I use all of those skills to help my moms just make this transition as smooth as possible so that it's not this huge anxiety-provoking thing. And beyond that, making sure people know that postpartum ends 1 year after birth, which is another soapbox that I won't get into right this second. And then, I continue to support women in the early motherhood years because a lot of those issues are actually universal. Once you have young kids, once you have pull-ups and diapers, this stuff is, very much the same. And I have clients that are like 15, 12 months, 2 years postpartum, and the issues are so universal. So that's how I help my clients.
I love that. And when I think back to my own pregnancy, I mean, we have 3 kids. They're all so very, very different. And I remember, especially with my first one, I was actually surrounded by people that were helpful. But there's something that's different about you opting to pay someone. When you pay, you also pay attention. And when you pay, you're choosing who you're paying attention to. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I had my mom, my dad were living in New York in a small apartment. And they're all like,
Yeah.
it's your first kid, we're coming to help. And it was
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, it's like, when I think about that season, it's one of like, it just gives me warm feelings because it's so beautiful to be surrounded by so much love. You know, I had the maximum amount of like physical support. Like my sister flew in from the UK because she's like, people don't know how to support recently delivered moms.
I
And
love it.
everybody cares about the baby, but no one really
Yeah.
does the things that you would be doing. They're doing the things that you've decided, like things you would rather be doing, like loving on the baby. They don't help you cook. They don't help you clean so that you can do it, right?
Let me
And
just say, hold on. I love your sister. I need to talk to her because
she's amazing.
she needs to cut. Let's continue.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
I have amazing sisters. I'm gonna send her this episode so she can hear that I'm bragging about her.
Yes.
But what I wanted to point out is even with all of that, there was still some isolation. There was still isolation going on. And the only person that made me realize that I was isolating myself was a friend of mine that's a physician. And she was like, what you're experiencing is not normal, right? And so the reason why I say that is I'm advocating to people that it's not just about any help. And even the best intended help may not be all that you need. When you've decided in advance who your person is going to be, you have chosen and say, hey, look out for me, right? I'm not a great swimmer. I'm better now than I used to be before, but I've done a bunch of like crazy stuff, like, you know, water rafting in River Nile years ago without even knowing how to swim.
Nice.
I don't know. Some people call that foolish, but whatever. It was a good experience.
Not me.
But what I always did was that, you know, I always made sure that it was safe. I had, you know, lifesavers or whatever they're called. And I would literally go to them and go, listen, I am here. This is my situation. This is my scenario. Make sure you look out for me.
Yeah.
Like, this is my level of swimming, right? And what that is so when I think about what you do, it's like, listen, we've talked, look out for me.
Yes.
Tell me when it's not normal. Tell me when I'm not normal. I'm paying you to look out for me, right? And I do think that that is important.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a very important point that being surrounded by people does not mean you're not lonely. And in postpartum, you are often surrounded by people. Like there's some of us, like I said, during COVID, I was alone, me and my husband. But most of the time, there's some family, there's some neighbors, there's somebody that comes around, but everybody is focused on the baby. So it's like you're just this hanger that produces milk if you choose to breastfeed, and nobody's looking at you.
You're just a boob.
Yeah, you're just a pair of boobs. And you are up in the middle of the night by yourself most of the time, and you don't know what is going on and if you're doing things right. And everybody seems to get it, right? All the other moms seem to get it. So then you think, I'm going through this alone. So I think it is very important to have these conversations because it normalizes the experiences and makes people realize you are not alone, because these experiences are very universal. And having support groups, including having the paid help, is important, but being in community and having that village of other moms who get it is also very important. And having a physician mom support group, I think it is even more important because we have so many things that are unique to us that we have to deal with. So, you know, I love a good support group, and there are lots of free ones online. Just Google it if you need one. But, you know, that isolation piece is very, very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to switch gears as we come towards the end. As someone that has done, you know, 2-3 businesses, if someone is listening right now and they're like, okay, this is great, thank you for doing what you do, but the part that I'm identifying most with is the fact that you're a physician that has been able to make the jump of finding a problem, creating a solution, not one time, but 2-3 times. What advice would you have for them that could be helpful going back to who you were before you decided to take the leap and do the things that you now are doing?
Yeah, you have value. You have value way more than you think, and so much more than your employer will lead you to believe, because they know your true value. They see it in their balance sheets, right? But they will make you think that you don't have much value. And so I think it really starts there, really not just hearing it and being like, oh yeah, that's nice, but believing it, letting it be part of your soul that I am a valuable person. I have valuable skills that are elite and irreplaceable. Don't let them, we cannot be replaced. We are the revenue generators in any situation, in any hospital system, in any clinic. It cannot happen without us. So once you know and believe that, all this stuff becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. So that's what I would say.
I love that. And what would you say are 1 or 2 things that helped you with that transition? Because now they're like, okay, thank you. Now I believe that I have value. So what is 1 thing or 2 things that I can do to help me take that first or second step in that direction?
Community. So I believe that is important for the moms that I work with who are postpartum and early motherhood. I believe it's important for entrepreneurs and for doctors in general. And just like the help, it's not just any community. It's the right supportive community that's doing the things that you want to do so that you can see what is possible. Because if you are hearing me right now and you're like, oh, wow, that's great, you'll think it's just me because I'm special, and I'm awesome. But if you are in a big group where everybody is doing the same thing, doing the things that you want to do in your future, you have a constant vision board in front of you. The community that you're in matters, and there are a lot of negative communities in the physician community in general. So it is easy to fall into the wrong one. So being very, very careful about who you surround yourself with. And that's the first step to getting to whatever it is that you are destined to do outside of medicine, if that's what you choose.
I love that. I 100% agree with you. And, I've shared on the podcast before that I started the Money Fit MD Money community because there was a need for that space, a non-shameful, non-judgmental zone where you can see women physicians doing the amazing things and living the life that you want on your own journey to doing that, being that, and you get to learn from each other, exchange ideas,
Yes.
Use them as that vision board, right? To help you quiet your own limiting belief that we all may have. So I love that you share that. I honestly think that's the key to growth, whatever growth that is. So I love that you share that. So if anyone is listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm so glad she's here because I'm Brigo. This baby ain't gonna have herself or himself. Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me on my website, drtoyacoaching.com. So that's DRTOYA coaching.com. And you can have all of my links there to Facebook, Instagram, my TikTok, and things are for my education. If you want to learn about OBGYN, you can go there too. And if you are currently pregnant and planning for postpartum, which you should be, I have a nice little cheat sheet about tips to return to work, and you can download that. And even if you're not pregnant, it's not your season, you can't even have a baby, join my newsletter list, because I think one thing that is very important is that the community, the people that are around pregnant and postpartum people and moms who have small kids, moms in general, we need to know how to take care of these people, right? It can't all be me educating moms about advocating for themselves. The people around them have to know what they are going through, what they need to support them properly. So a lot of times in my newsletters, I speak to people who are not even pregnant because I need y'all to take care of us better, do better. So join my newsletter and let's, change this experience for moms in the new year in 2024.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing all the things you've shared from a expertise perspective, from your experience perspective, from your background. I think it's going to help many women physicians. So I want to say thank you for coming on here to share with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was lots of fun.
All right, everybody. I hope this was helpful. And if it was, leave us a review. Let us know what your thoughts are about it and share with another woman physician that you think would be inspired and helped by this episode. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.